Brady. This is going to be exciting.
Yeah, they got coverage, starts up to go. Green flag is out and we're underway.
Just a few laps into this. Oh, the 37's getting loose. Oh, and he saves it. Oh, they're going 3 wide.
We've got a 5-way fight for the win of this race coming to 4 laps to go. He's gonna win it here in spectacular fashion.
Welcome back to the Goat Locker Racing INVETS Grand National Series. And tonight, we've got a bit of a different challenge for these drivers as they will be turning right around Sonoma. After an off week last week, the series is back and ready to go from this tight, twisty, up and down road course. I'm Sky Shrek. I'm joined up in the booth tonight by Dave Regal, and Eddie Smith is our producer. Dave, what do you have to do to win a race around Sonoma?
The most important thing that you're going to do at a place like Sonoma is take your time. When you try to rush some of these corners, especially the hairpin turns and some of the carousel situations, that's when the rear end of the car tends to want to step out. This thing is all but 2 miles long, and it goes through 12 turns, and that's 12 unique turns. There's not one thing that's the same here. So biggest thing is back those corners up, get the car able to rotate, and take your time.
And there's definitely some action spots as you see that track map that are going to come up time and time again tonight. That hairpin down there, turn 11, that's going to be a good time. The entire S's section really, turn 7 down to turn 9 there, you're going to get some drama. And that downhill through turns 5 and 6 to tight right-hand corners, those are going to challenge the drivers a lot. And you're going to see some moves down there, some optimistic, some maybe will actually work through those 2 corners. Let's take a quick look at our schedule, where we've been and where we're going so far this season. We're at Daytona now. We're at Daytona to start the season. We're at Sonoma now. I can't read. Las Vegas, Auto Club, New Hampshire, and Pocono are where we've been. Next week, we'll be at Rockingham. Phoenix, Dover, and Michigan will round out your regular season, and then we'll hit the playoffs with Charlotte, Iowa, Bristol, Chicagoland, and our championship race at Homestead, Miami.
Yeah, next week being able to go to Rockingham, that's a classic for any kind of Grand National racing that we do in this sport. Of course, it's eternally alive here on the iRacing.com servers. Dover is an exciting track for me, kind of a home track, just a short drive down I-95 from here outside of Philadelphia. And, as I look here with Phoenix coming up, I was just checking out Phoenix on NASCAR 25 on my console. My goodness, that place is a blast. Back when I was a driver here on iRacing, I always loved me some Phoenix racing. Also, having championship weekend at Homestead, Miami, I feel like that's where it belongs. For years we were out here going to Phoenix, but it feels better starting and ending the season in Florida. And, we're doing it right here in the INVETS Grand National Series.
We don't have an official point standings to tell you, but we can tell you that Joseph McWhorter is currently the leader here in the INVETS Grand National Series. He's had some great performances over the last few weeks. He's coming on a bit of a win streak. Grabbed the win at Pocono 2 weeks ago, and I mean, he has just been kind of dominant this whole series. We will see if he's able to grab another win tonight here at Sonoma. He is currently sitting 4th on the grid, as we will give you your grid for tonight's race, brought to you by Jam Printing and Promotions. Since forming in 2013, Jam has contributed printing and promotional sponsorships to more than 60 local nonprofits, with a primary focus on organizations that assist veterans, women, and children. They've been with Goat Locker Racing since the very beginning. They're local and veteran certified, and when they do well, they do good in the community. And the winner of your Jam Printing and Promotions Pole Award tonight is that 77 car of Mark Whitley, always a threat to win at really any place we go. He's got the fastest time here in qualifying, just barely over the 40 car of Ken Huber in second. Both of those cars are half a second faster than your next car on the grid, the 04 of Wesley Burke. He'll start next to the 72 of Joseph McWhorter. Chuck Sweeting will go from 5th tonight in the 57, next to Devontae Drain in the 33. Barrett Morton sits 7th in the 9, next to Brandon Wallace in the 99. Already 2 seconds off your pole time from 1st back to 8th. Kyle Deering goes from 9th in the 50, next to Jamie Libke in the 16.
Starting off in 11th position, going to be Dave Calvert in the number 90, with Garrett Kinder joining him on row number 6 in 12th position. Row 7 going to feature Stefan Purcell in the 92, with Michael Jones in the 02 starting in 14th. 15th goes to Frederick Seagraves Jr. the 3rd in the 59, and Judson Curtis in the 29. 17th position goes Stefan Davis in the 09, and Charles Abert rolling off in 18th position. Rounding out your starting top 20 is Billy Sigmund, who's going to be his debut race tonight in his Ford Mustang, alongside Brock Price in the 43.
And rounding out your field back from there, we've got Daryl Whitford in the 20, Chuck Feltz in the 75 car. It will be the 1 of Christopher Heiner, the 49 of Mark Barcelos, and your final driver on the field here tonight will be Patrick Hagan and Armando Melgoza, the 581 and the 78, respectively. As the pace car pulls away, and we get ready to go for 40 laps tonight around Sonoma.
Yeah, 40 laps with a pit road speed of 40 miles per hour, and coming out of that backstretch there onto pit road is going to be really challenging for these drivers to get those things woed down. Plus, the entrance to pit road also kind of shadows that hairpin in turn 11. 4 tire sets going to be available, so they'll be laying 3, and local yellows only. So we will have technically green flag racing from start to finish. 100% fuel tonight, so that's not going to be much of a factor. Probably a pit stop somewhere in and around lap number 28. I want to say somewhere around 28 to 32, all things considered. We've got a lot of drivers who try to make these races a one-stop race, so as it is. But my eyes are going to be on Mark Whitley and Joseph McWhorter, as they almost always are. McWhorter buried here in P4 to start, but he's kind of made a fun sport for himself to get himself deep into the field and then get to drive himself all the way back up to the lead.
And I'm kind of interested in seeing how that 40 car of Ken Huber does tonight, because he was really close to Mark Whitley in qualifying, only about half a tenth off of grabbing the pole tonight. He's a driver that we don't see win too many races in the Grand National Series, although he's been up here and he's been contending pretty much all year long. I believe he sits in decent position in the overall point standings, although he hasn't ran too many races, so he is a bit lower than maybe his performances would indicate. That 40 car is going to be strong tonight, and I am pretty excited to see how he does.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, sometimes when we come to these road courses, we do see some of the drivers who excel at the road courses, really come to the top, whereas those drivers that are primarily oval drivers, we're going to see them sort of struggle. And, something that I think that we experience more often than not is that when there's a track that somebody says, hey, listen, this isn't my strongest track, that's when they put that extra preparation in, and that's when we start to see them really shine as the iRacing.com pace car peels on down pit road.
Yeah, we'll come through the hairpin here, and you've only got that one left-hander separating you from the start-finish line. On the front row tonight, it's going to be Mark Whitley. He'll start next to Ken Huber with Wesley Burke, Joseph McWhorter, and Chuck Sweeting. The rest of your top 5 as we head on to the front straightaway. We are green for 40 laps at Sonoma.
Mark Whitley with a good start just ahead of Wesley Burke as they make their way in here to the first set of turns. And the Jawa GG Double Natural 77 comes uphill. And one of the things that a lot of these drivers are going to have to contend with is the fact that that car weight is going to shift dramatically coming uphill. When it hits the crest of the hill, we can see those suspensions really releasing a lot of energy underneath the car. And then they slam back down as they make their first set of downhill turns.
Everybody singled out for now. No real accidents on that first lap. Looked like it was pretty clean throughout much of the field. Mark Whitley holds on. Oh, I jinxed it. We had a car around in the back. It's Patrick Hagan in the 581, taking a little bit of a detour, but he will not hit anything, and he'll get that car back rolling pretty easily. As Whitley continues his lead of this race up front, he's got a pretty good gap back there to Ken Huber, already starting to form as we wind our way down through the S's. 1 second separating that 72nd car from everybody behind him as we head down into the hairpin on lap 1. And this is going to be a tricky corner. It can be quite easy for a driver to blow this one, maybe make some contact with the car behind him or in front of him. Everybody seems to make it through pretty well this first time around.
Side by side are Frederick Seagraves and Brock Price. As Brock Price spins out just ahead of Seagraves, he's able to get on the binders fast. Seagraves going to get out of the way for the time being and start to scamper away as now Christopher Heiner in the one machine going to follow him. Look at Brock Price now trying to recover as he gets here just to the rear of the field. You know, this is the perfect kind of racetrack.
Whoa! Whoa. Sorry, keep going. Joseph McWhorter just had a moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it. It's like sometimes I feel like my eyes are going crossed just trying to watch this whole thing as we go to the V-Speed instant replay. Let's watch McWhorter, who just overcooks his exit, and as he's coming downhill, he forgets that this is a downhill kind of situation, and he's got to be able to reel this thing back in as we go back live here at Sonoma. You know, one of the things that I think this is dangerous for just about everybody. When you come on that downhill transition, sometimes it's Kyle Deering decides to do a little landscaping here on the right side. When you come downhill, you forget how much momentum and how much weight these cars carry into that turn.
Judson Curtis moving up through the field here, just got a 2-for-1 done down into the hairpin. He is making some hay. Started out back in 16th, has that car driving quite a bit higher than that right now. He's running in P11, so 5 spots in a couple laps as Stephon Purcell has a big skid behind him, keeps that car out of the wall, but he will lose a lot of time as he sits in P12 at the moment. Ken Huber starting to catch Mark Whitley, but doesn't have the speed to get around him yet. That gap, we saw it at 1 second to end lap 1. It was down at half a second, now back up to 3/4 as Huber chases him around. He's better in this second part of the track, but Whitley really pulled away at the start.
Ken Huber was the fastest car on the last lap. He's the first driver to crack that 1 minute 18 second mark with 1 minute 18.97. And right now in this battle for the lead, Huber's been quietly chipping away, but now it seems like Whitley has recovered and now he's back on pace. You know, the important thing that we're going to see here is drivers being consistent, hitting those same marks time after time after time for 40 of these things. Kyle Deering registering as having crashed just a moment ago. But now it looks like Mark Whitley's able to start gapping Huber again as he is back on pace. They come across the start-finish line, and they're going to be scored. Let's see, 119.38 now for Ken Huber, 119.20 for Mark Whitley.
And if we can get a replay of what happened to Kyle Deering, he took a pretty good shot to the wall down through the S's in that 50 car. Didn't hit anybody. It was kind of a self-inflicted wound. He comes off the corner side by side with that 02 car of Michael Jones. He's running back on the inside, just clips the curb at an awkward angle, and it sends him nose first into that wall. He'll keep driving, and he's going to come down pit lane here and I think get a fast repair taken on that car. But that could have been, I would say, a little bit worse for that 50. He could have had to tow it.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of places on this racetrack that used to have tires as their wall, and now they've decided to put the concrete barrier up. There's still that big tire cushion on some of the outside perimeter, but
Whoa, Judson Curtis around from 11.
Curtis the same way, as he's going to have to back it up and get back into pace. Let's go to the V-Speed instant replay now for Curtis as he gets right to. It almost looked like a hook situation. But Curtis able to get himself recovered and pointed back the right direction as he's going to get back underway here on lap number 4. Patrick Hagan also having himself a moment just a second ago.
And Garrett Kinder is not going to get away from that unscathed. He lost a position there as a result of that contact. Almost lost 2. Was barely able to hold off Michael Jones and Dave Calvert behind him. So he will drop 1 spot as he tries to recover from that contact that sent Judson Curtis around. Up front, still the Mark Whitley show, still the Ken Huber show. He's holding tight, 0.7 of a second, still separating the 2, but the gap has blown up between those 2 cars and Joseph McWhorter back in 3rd. 4 seconds separate Whitley from that car in P3. We're not even 5 laps through this race. It's been domination for the 77 so far. Huber looks like really the only car with any chance of stopping him.
Yeah, one of the things that these drivers oftentimes have to ask themselves are, do I want to try to overdrive this thing, cook my equipment up, and next thing you know, they've got, just a paperweight with wheels. So, it's basically who wants to try to go ahead and go after 3rd, and right now it's down to Wesley Burke in the 04, who is the closest driver to Joseph McWhorter. And as you had mentioned, 4 seconds separating McWhorter and Huber. So, right now the battle is going to be from 3rd back to about 10th. First driver down a lap is going to be Patrick Hagan in the 581, as he was passed by the 77 after he had just spun himself out coming into the hairpin turn a moment ago. As we work lap number 6 of 40 at Sonoma Raceway, I want to welcome everybody in and thank you for joining us tonight in the INVETS Grand National Series live here on V-Speed as we work tonight a little bit of road course racing for you folks.
Frederick Seagraves, we're watching him right now, just got a black flag for incident responsibility. It will be a drive-through penalty for that 59 car, so he got involved in some kind of incident that's going to end up getting him that penalty. He dropped a couple spots there. You just saw him fall behind Judson Curtis in that battle going on right now. Stephon Davis, Christopher Heiner now working just in front of that Seagraves car for position there. That's 14th on the racetrack. As these 3 cars try to work, you've got Judson Curtis in here as well, trying to recover from that spin he had. He was running up in 11th. Whoa, way wide is Stephon Davis. That'll cause him to lose the spot. Heiner is through. Curtis will look to follow him up the inside here. Curtis will maybe get a 2-for-1 down on the inside of turn 6 as he's side by side with Heiner. But that 1 car holds off. He'll have the advantage down to the S's, and the 29 backs out as Stephon Davis drops all the way behind Frederick Seagraves, and he's going to continue to struggle. Back off of the grass again and again, and he's going to lose out to Brock Price, down about 5 spots in just a couple corners.
These S's can leave you getting carried away. I mean, to some degree, for those of us that grew up in rural America, it feels like a country road kind of thing. There's a section just outside of Reading on a backcountry road that feels a lot like those S's, and believe me, as a driver, I used to get myself all kinds of wound up coming through there thinking, oh, we're good. And all of a sudden you are coming into the hairpin just with a full head of steam, and I feel like that's what probably happened with Stephon Davis, as now he makes his way up the hill after crossing the start-finish line here in turns 1, 2, and now 3 as they get ready to go to the downhill section.
Saw Judson Curtis there make that pass on Christopher Heiner, and then you saw Seagraves right behind him serve that drive-through penalty. He will come out in P20 as he rejoins the racetrack. He'll be actually in maybe a battle for position here. He's got Darrell Whitford and 20 right behind him. That is a battle on the lead lap, 4 spots. 2 cars behind him are Kyle Deering, who had to take that fast repair, and same deal with Patrick Hagan, 2 laps down, also had to take one of his out there on the racetrack. Gaps are starting to form here between a lot of the drivers in the field, but Brock Price in the 43 is making it a little interesting. He's caught up to the 1 of Heiner after a particularly bad lap for the driver of that 1 car, and Brock Price might be able to get through here over the next couple corners.
while Brock Price was closing in on the one of Christopher Heiner, he was having a slight connection issue, and that can be very frustrating on an oval. It's even more frustrating here on a road course as we check in with our race leader, Mark Whitley, who's now under assault from Ken Huber. Huber is all over the rear bumper of that 77 as we look back from Mark Whitley's bumper. He's kind of feeling a little harassed right now because he wants desperately to be able to drive away and just focus on the windshield in the front. But that rear windshield is full of the 40 machine of Ken Huber.
Huber was really close there, had that gap under half a second, but as they made their way through the S's, it reopened, and Mark Whitley was able to get back away to a margin of 0.7 of a second. Take a look at the lap times here as these drivers cross the line. You've got Mark Whitley coming around right now. He will be closely followed by Ken Huber, and then Joseph McWhorter will be right there off in the distance. At the line that time, it was Whitley with a 120.1, Huber with a 120 flat, Joseph McWhorter with a 120.07, so he's kind of falling in the middle of those cars, faster than Mark Whitley, running on very similar pace to Ken Huber. He'll likely need to pick it up, as he has closed the gap a little bit over the last few laps, but not enough to where he would be able to contend for this lead. Black flag will go to the 4 car of Garrett Kinder, also for an incident responsibility. We caught that one for you with Judson Curtis, and he will make a drive-through.
9 laps in, just about a quarter of the way through this piece right now in Sonoma. Your race leader, Mark Whitley, now starting to gap Ken Huber by about another half second extra. So now he's at 1 1/4, running over top of Mark Whitley. Side by side is the 90 and the 29. That's Judson Curtis and Dave Calvert. And now it looks like Judson Curtis able to step away from Calvert and give himself a little bit of breathing room. I think sometimes these drivers forget that the closer that they get on a road course, they've got to be able to set those cars up in different areas than they usually would as we work past that O'Reilly Auto Parts logo here on lap number 10 now at Sonoma.
Look at that lap time there for Mark Whitley. So much faster than everybody else in the field. A 1:19.857. That's almost half a second up on Ken Huber. And it's 0.2 up on Joseph McWhorter. Great lap for Mark Whitley. More laps like that will really help him to get away. Although he does have a lap car up in front of him now. They're starting to catch those back markers. Darrell Whitford will pull out of the way. He'll let Mark Whitley by down there on the apron. And Ken Huber will stay in pursuit. They're going to have a couple more cars coming up here. Frederick Seagraves in the 59, not too far up the road. Neither is Charles Aber.
Yeah, working here ahead of Ken Huber is Mark Whitley. And, you know, Whitley has been one of those dominant drivers all season long. We usually see him up atop the scoring pylon. And tonight is no different. McWhorter is mysteriously back in third, but it seems like it's been the Whitley-Huber-McWhorter show all season long. Wesley Burke also getting in on that kind of a dance throughout the rest of the season. And, you know, he has contended a few times for some success here in this league. But, you know, overall, Mark Whitley has proven that there's a reason he and Joseph McWhorter are the two marquee drivers, if you will, in the Grand National Series.
And, I mean, the gap from McWhorter back to Wesley Burke has really grown exponentially, too, as McWhorter has kind of stayed even and held steady with Whitley and Huber up front. It is almost 6 seconds from McWhorter back to Burke. So as Whitley, Huber, McWhorter stay consistent up here in the top 3, and as Huber and McWhorter gain quite a bit of time over the last lap, Wesley Burke is still checked out to lunch there in P4. He's got no one anywhere near him. And this is really going to be a battle for the top 3, barring anything freaky happening maybe on pit road or an accident. It's going to come down to Whitley, Huber, and if he can get that car in gear, maybe Joseph McWhorter by lap 40.
Yeah, you know, and this is one of the more technical road courses that we have. To me, this is definitely the classic road course. They've been running here for, you know, decades at this point. And I personally do like coming to Sonoma, at least from a spectator standpoint. From a race driver standpoint, it is just the most stressful track that there is as a road course. I mean, you know, even riding on board here with Ken Huber, You know, we can see a lot of smooth wheel action here, and I think that that's what I kind of look forward to the most. This is a driver that's confident in what he's doing. You can see that there's not a whole lot of, you know, I call it fear driving, if you will. That wheel is nice and fluid. It feels like you're driving on a river, and it's just flowing from left to right, right to left here on lap number 12. And I mean, you know, overall, Ken Huber not having a bad night. If he could get some clean air ahead of Mark Whitley, I think he would probably be giving the rest of the field a good run for their money. But, you know, we talk about it on the oval tracks more often than not, trying to focus on let's pass one driver at a time. Road courses force you to do that from the rip. You know, this is not the kind of place where you're going to see a pack, obviously. This is not the kind of place where you're going to try to see, you know, any kind of aggressive driving. This is about waiting for the person in front of you to make a mistake, and unfortunately, the person in front of Ken Huber is Mark Whitley, and he rarely makes a mistake no matter where we are on this circuit.
Yeah, they're really trading lap times up here. I mean, we've seen a couple laps where Mark Whitley is clear out in front. He's running 2 or 3 tenths faster than the rest of the field. And then we've seen moments where Mark Whitley has made a mistake, lost a bunch of time, and Ken Huber has reeled him right back in. And that balance is kind of how it stayed so even over the first 12 laps of this race. He come across the line this time, and Ken Huber once again just a little bit quicker, but not really by a whole lot. Whitley ran a very similar lap to the last one he did, while Huber picked up about half a second with a 1:19.796 for him compared to a 1:19.83 for Mark Whitley. 11 seconds separating Whitley from Burke now as that gap up front really opens to pretty much everybody else in the field. You've got a battle going on down into the hairpin. Judson Curtis has just made a pass on Stefan Purcell, and that'll get that 29 car up into the top 10 as we see Mark Whitley deal with a lapper. That's Frederick Seagraves, and this might be the worst spot on the racetrack to catch a lap car because there is nowhere to go through the S's. You see Whitley having major problems with Seagraves. That's going to allow Ken Huber to get right back up behind that 77 car, and the gap has closed to under 3 seconds as Whitley is going to have to pull a move into the hairpin here to the inside of Seagraves. He'll go for it, and now he's got to deal with not just that 59 car, but he's got to deal with Charles Abert as well. They'll clear both, but Ken Huber is right there.
Yeah, you know, road courses are the worst when it comes to lap cars because we oftentimes see a dominant driver like Whitley, Huber, or McWhorter get tied up in lap traffic, and that's what you were talking about, you know, a little bit ago. Barring something catastrophic, and that would be catastrophic where, you know, a less than skilled driver gets in the way of your race leaders, and bad things can happen. You know, Jamie Libke just a few moments ago was tagged by Darrell Whitford, and, you know, again, Jamie Libke, I feel bad for her out of Phoenix, Arizona, because it seems like more often than not, she's the one that gets tagged in things that were not, quote-unquote, her fault, as Darrell Whitford is going to come down pit road for repairs. The rest of the field is able to scamper away through the hairpin turn here as we come back to the start-finish line. Meanwhile, Mark Whitley is starting to just absolutely show his dominance once again here in the INVETS Grand National Series.
Lap 14 now of 40, so we're about a third of the way through this race, and that final 2/3 is going to go pretty quick. You've really got to stay perfect, especially if you're one of these drivers like Whitley, like Huber, where you have so much on the line. There's not going to be any cautions tonight. There's not going to be any chances for you to maybe close back up through the field if you have an accident. If you get in a wreck, you go way off the track, if you have a spin, you are in major trouble and there's no recovering it. Just ask Judson Curtis, who's only now 13 laps later has gotten back up inside that top 10, and he still has 8 seconds to overcome if he wants to catch that 16 car of Jamie Libke up in front of him.
Yeah, and you know, one of the things that we see at a place like this is so-and-so went off track, so-and-so came back on track and went off track. And, you know, once you get yourself out of rhythm, as, you know, it looks like the 29 of Judson Curtis kicked up a little bit of dirt there on his last pass through. You know, once you get off your rhythm, that's where all of a sudden, you know, you get a little frustrated, and frustrated driving creates mistakes, and it breeds problems on the racetrack. And we can see just out here running all by their lonesome is Mark Whitley and Ken Huber with yet another car that they're ready to put a lap down. The question that starts to beg itself is, how many cars do you think are going to be left on the lead lap? Right now, it's just 13 as we stand, and now it's going to go down to 12 here on with 26 to go. I mean, you know, this is an interesting development as we work here in this race. Coming down nice and slow is Joseph McWhorter out of third position with 25 laps to go. He's going to get repairs. And, you know, one of the hard things in this race, at least, or one of the easier things I should say, is that pit road is still on the traditional left-hand side of the car. We go to some road courses where that's set up on the right-hand side. That throws a lot of drivers, just like at Watkins Glen where it's on the right-hand side. It throws those drivers as they're looking for their pit box. Your natural reaction is to bear left, and there you have to go right. So here, still a little bit of a traditional approach to your pit box as now McWhorter rolls off, and they're still duking it out between Whitley and Huber.
Yeah, Huber is, I'm amazed by how consistently he's kept that car about half a second to 1 second back of Mark Whitley, even though he hasn't really been able to make the move yet. I mean, you're a distance back that if Mark Whitley were to make some kind of major mistake, you likely have a chance to pounce and go for the lead. And with how dominant that 77 car has been, not just in this race, but really over the course of the season with how well he's been performing, you got to wonder if he's even going to make that mistake and if Huber is even going to get that chance to close back up to him, because he's been so good this season. He's had such a good time in that 77 car. Huber is going to have to really push it if he wants to pressure Mark Whitley into doing anything. While these drivers continue to run about 0.4 of a second separating the two of them, we want to thank one of our partners here at Goat Locker Racing. That is the title sponsor for this series, INVETS. INVETS aids in transitioning to civilian life, focusing on job placement and finding the right community for veterans and their families to ensure their success and happiness. They are a veteran nonprofit in Indiana with the goal of bringing veterans to that state to live and work. And we thank INVETS not only for their continued support of Goat Locker Racing, but for being the title sponsor of the INVETS Grand National Series. Huber still chasing down Mark Whitley.
Yeah, we work here with 24 laps to go at Sonoma. And, you know, overall, as we take a look back here at Michael Jones in the 0-2, he's just ahead of Stefan Purcell. And, you know, Stefan Purcell about a half second back. Again, just kind of lurking in the weeds like a lion in the desert, you know, waiting for bad things to happen. The 92 of Stefan Purcell kind of giving maybe a little bit of a headache now to the double deuce of the 22 as we work here. So this is an interesting situation as the 92 works ahead. Now the 0-2, the 22 being scored as the 0-2, so maybe try to keep that in mind in your head. But, you know, 15 cars now, or I'm sorry, 14 cars on the lead lap, and it's getting smaller and smaller.
I wonder if we're going to see either Whitley or Huber try for that pitch strategy that McWhorter is on, or if we're really going to see anyone else maybe make that pitch strategy work and try to run the early one stop or even the two stop, depending on what exactly McWhorter wants to do. Haven't seen anybody else run that strategy. We haven't even really seen anybody else in the pits for tires and gas other than the car who took a fast repair to start the race. Joseph McWhorter is kind of on his own program now, and excited to see how it works out for him. He is picking up over 2 seconds a lap on Mark Whitley, Ken Huber, and really everybody in front of him, so he certainly has some speed in that 72 car. Is this going to work out in the long run, though, is going to be the question. We've had our third DNF of the night. Patrick Hagan was out early. We've also now lost Daryl Whitford, and the 09 of Stephon Davis has decided to exit the session here tonight.
Yeah, you know, these road courses have a tendency to bring out low car counts and early quitters, if you will, as fast time just went to Joseph McWhorter at 1 minute 18.3 seconds. And, you know, McWhorter here, as we take a peek in, he is working his way around as many drivers as he can. as now we work through the hairpin turn, and McWhorter able to pin down, good gravy, another driver that's, and just ahead of him on the timing tower is Devontae Drain. And the 33 right now has a good gap, about 12 seconds back to McWhorter, as McWhorter still having to navigate around the lap cars.
We're just about halfway through this one here, lap 19 out of 40 in the INVETS Grand National Series race at Sonoma. And while we're at it, let's thank another one of our... Oh, we're going to wait on that because Mark Whitley has just opted to make a pit stop. He will come down just shy of halfway here in this race, and I wonder if him making that turn down pit road is going to maybe open the floodgates for some cars behind him to come down. Ken Huber has opted to stay out. He will go another lap. Wesley Burke will also stay out and go another lap. So it's just Mark Whitley opting to make the move in. Nobody else in that top 5 is really looking to join him right now.
One of the hardest things I think that iRacing offers as far as a driver experience is that with a lot of these drivers, as the 77 comes down pit road, he's going to get 4 tires and a tank of Sunoco racing fuel. You know, one of the hardest things about being an iRacing driver is you have to be your own spotter, your own crew chief, and drive the car and do well. And, you know, these guys, at least in race preparation, are thinking, okay, this is a scheduled stop. We know that we're going to be green, that, you know, there's no cautions that are going to open up opportunities for extra pits. So, you know, if I'm a driver out on the racetrack, especially one that can contend for race leader time, you know, I'm looking at that 77. I'm looking at that at the 72 thinking, all right, if they're coming in, I need to come in as well.
Yeah, and we'll see if anyone does opt to make that move down pit road. I think now that we have seen him in, we're really going to see the floodgates open because, I mean, at a certain point, if you're running deeper in the field, maybe like 7th, 8th, 9th, you might have that feeling of, oh, Mark Whitley just came in. Does he know something I don't? Is he running some strategy I don't have? Maybe I should just do what he does. I mean, it tends to work out pretty well for him. Judson Curtis will be in now from back in 10th, and he will get 4 tires and fuel in that car, and he will be off in that 29 machine. Just Whitley, McWhorter, and Curtis having come down so far. Have not seen anyone else come down. Burke, Sweeting, Devontae Drain, Ken Huber all still out on the racetrack. Barrett Morton will also keep that car out. Next car to pass the pit entry will be the 99 of Brandon Wallace. He'll make his way down the, I guess you can call it a back straightaway of sorts. The pit straight, he will not come down, but Jamie Libke in 9th will come down. So that will be your next car in. Jamie Libke will get 4 tires and fuel in the 16.
Ken Huber now gapping Wesley Burke by 16.5 and then some seconds as we work here at the halfway point. 20 to go at Sonoma Raceway, and Ken Huber kind of working over the one machine of Christopher Heiner. Now, Heiner is one of those drivers that, you know, we don't get to see a whole lot of him, as now it looks like Huber is going to work the inside of the hairpin and get around him for the time being. Overall, it seems like Huber, who started second, is going to try to give everybody a run for their money. Wesley Burke started in 3rd. He's now up into 2nd. So a few of these drivers gaining positions, but right now your big mover of the night is Brock Price in the 43. He started in 19th. He runs in 9th for the time being. And at least for my money, Brock Price in the 43, running a nice consistent race. When you don't see somebody around, you know, a whole lot of traffic, that's a driver who's very comfortable, and a comfortable driver is a successful one here at Sonoma as he works his way into the S's and glides the 43 ever so gracefully down here in what essentially is the back stretch, if you will, back toward turn number 11, which is the hairpin.
By the way, Mark Whitley is dicing. He's 2 seconds faster and then some than Ken Huber right now. Just made the move on Devontae Drain look easy through the uphill section. He's running 4 seconds a lap faster than that Devontae Drain car. We'll get around the lap car there of Seagraves on your screen. And the next car up for Mark Whitley will be 6 seconds from that front bumper. It's Chuck Sweeting. And if Sweeting does not opt to make a pit stop here at some point over the next few laps, Whitley is going to catch him in really of only about a lap and a half because he is absolutely moving on those new tires. Huber and Burke will stay out. We'll see if Chuck Sweeting opts to make his move down as McWhorter on that same strategy as Mark Whitley is dicing through the field just as quickly, but Whitley has already cleared Devontae Drain by 3.5 seconds. McWhorter is still another half second behind Drain, so 4.5 seconds seems to be the gap for Mark Whitley to that 72 car at the moment, as I believe we just got a car in pit road there. That is Frederick Seagraves making a 4-tire stop. He had a drive-through earlier, so this will be his first stop for service.
Yeah, and over the last 5 laps, your average fastest drivers are Joseph McWhorter, Ken Huber, Wesley Burke, Chuck Sweeting, and Brock Price. I mean, Joseph McWhorter with an average of 1 minute 19.85 seconds. He currently runs in 6th position. Your race leader, Ken Huber, is averaging over the last 5 laps 1 minute 20.9 seconds. So obviously a major difference between time there. But McWhorter, meanwhile, he's buried back in 5th, while Ken Huber is your race leader. And maybe at this point, he knows that he's made his bed. He knows that there's not a whole lot that he's got to work with. I mean, Wesley Burke, hot on his heels, but, I feel like once Huber comes down as one of the, I want to call him an average driver, if you will, he's going to be the one that we start to see more and more throughout this evening, being focused upon, if you will.
Yeah, we're just really waiting on those pit stops here. I think the window is going to be open very, very shortly for a lot of these cars to come down. And as we continue to wait around for pit stops here, we are going to thank another one of our partners for real this time here on Goat Locker Racing. That is Glove Station. Glove Station is a very big partner of Goat Locker Racing. At Glove Station, they are committed to providing quality gloves and protective gear for a wide range of your daily activities and jobs. From tinkering on home DIYs to working in industrial environments and everything in between, Glove Station has got you covered. With the endless amounts of safety products on the market, they want to make it effortless for you to find the right protection for your needs. Thank you, Glove Station, for your continued support of Goat Locker Racing, and we will have the Glove Station white flag coming up because they've got quality gloves and protective gear that get you across the finish line. Mark Whitley is right on the tail of Chuck Sweeting here, less than a second separating those two cars. I said it wouldn't be long before that 77 caught him if the 57 didn't opt to come down pit road, and there you go. Whitley has already chased that car down, and Chuck Sweeting is going to pull to the outside of the S and just let him by. And you are going to see Mark Whitley shoot off into the sunset here because Chuck Sweeting on those old tires has absolutely nothing for the driver of that 77 car.
Something that you hear so often on road courses is, hey, listen, I know that I'm a stronger driver. Just kind of get out of my way. There's nothing wrong with that, at least in my opinion, on a road course. You don't want to be the one that causes, a more dominant driver, a more skilled driver to, have himself a fit. I mean, Mark Whitley led 19 laps earlier tonight. Ken Huber clicking off 6 laps led now. And Whitley has climbed into 3rd position on his recovery drive. He's only got Wesley Burke and Ken Huber ahead of him. The problem is he's got about 8 seconds to Wesley Burke, so that's a pretty good gap to cover. In fact, I say pretty good gap. That's substantial, especially in road course racing. We got to see a little bit of that today at COTA as, Tyler Reddick picked up his 3rd in a row in the real world, and we focused tonight on the digital world, while Mark Whitley wants to try to continue his dominance in this league. We take a peek now at the 40 car of Ken Huber, working his way around the lap traffic here at Sonoma. This has got to be frustrating with 16 to go, now 15. Hey, listen, get out of my way. I'm way faster than you.
By the way, Devontae Drain, next car in the pits, just made that stop about a lap ago. He will be out on 4 fresh tires and gas. Has that car in 9th, but he's got that Mark Whitley, Joseph McWhorter speed in it. The capability to run 118s on those fresh tires, and I think we'll see that 33 back up through the field and maybe even into a top 5 position before too long. He's had some pretty good speed behind the wheel of that orange number 33 car today. As Ken Huber has gotten through some of the lap traffic, he's got a couple more cars up in front of him, Frederick Seagraves and then Devontae Drain, who he's not going to have to worry about because Drain will be the faster car in comparison to that group. Judson Curtis making a move here on track for position as Wesley Burke tries to split some lappers 3 wide. Curtis just got around Stefan Purcell there, and Wesley Burke running second, is kind of caught in the middle of this battle. Burke stuck behind Curtis, who is really the faster car at this moment in time because Judson Curtis has already come down for 4 tires on the car, and Wesley Burke has not. So even though they're mixing it up, Curtis has the advantage in this battle. We'll see if Burke opts to make that move down pit road now that we are firmly into the pit stop window here on lap 26.
Yeah, for these drivers that have held on as long as they have, I mean, a 20-second gap between Huber and Burke, that might be enough to keep yourself to be competitive. And, you know, this is not your average quote-unquote pit cycle, if you will. You know, you're going to see a lot of positions shuffling around with not a whole lot of laps lost. But right now, Ken Huber clicking off his 8th lap lead that time by, and Mark Whitley still trying to look to see if he can maybe, I'm just saying, crawl back up there as he now runs the double natural in 3rd position, just 22 seconds behind our race leader, Ken Huber. And, you know, a minute ago I said, they're kind of closing in on one another, but they're really not with this much real estate between them. Working here with 14 laps to go at Sonoma Raceway. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Ken Huber, your race leader. We take a peek at him right now. And, you know, Ken Huber almost making this look easy, if you will, as now he works his way into the hairpin area. And, you know, that hairpin, once upon a time, we used to watch, especially these Grand National cars have the rear end step out on them. These drivers seem to have figured it out, and I think something that goes understated, especially in this league, is that this is a fixed setup league. Everybody's chassis is adjusted the exact same way. The only thing that's adjustable, if you will, is you know, steering ratios and you know, brake bias at some level. So really, it's more comfort controls, but everything else set exactly the same. So when you're able to dominate and drive the way that you are, and show the rest of the field who's boss, that's really all about driver skill. As we go on board now with Mark Whitley in the 77, as he works here, trying desperately to get back up to that race lead.
And while we watch Mark Whitley continue to make it around, he'll get around Wesley Burke here in just a second, but we would like to thank another one of our partners at Goat Locker Racing. That is Goat Talk Live. Goat Talk is more than just a show. It's a platform dedicated to supporting our nation's heroes. Through engaging conversations, Goat Talk spotlights the impactful work GLR does to build community and camaraderie through their iRacing leagues. Each week, hang out with the GLR crew for incredible stories, sim racing action, and a celebration of the spirit of service and community. Don't miss your chance to connect with the people driving change and supporting those who have served on Goat Talk Live. As you see Mark Whitley right on the bumper of Wesley Burke here for P2. Burke still not opting to make that pit stop. He's going to run it as long as he possibly can. And that 77 car, Mark Whitley, will make easy work of him down there through the hairpin. Coming up on 11 laps to go. I wonder what the strategy here is going to be for Ken Huber. We don't think he has enough fuel. We're almost certain of that. But is he maybe going to try a fuel-only stop here?
Well, you know, even fuel only, at that point, you've given up any type of grip that you can use to try to gap everybody else. So, you know, I think at this point, if he goes fuel only, he knows he's not going to win, but at least he gets to claim, you know, I was fairly certainly dominant, so to speak, as he got himself around the 59 of Frederick Seagraves Jr. And, I mean, Seagraves is down 2 laps right now, so obviously not a major factor, as it shows here. Charles Abert having himself a moment just a second ago in his number 75. And as we go to the V-Speed instant replay, we're going to see the 75 get himself way off base here and come to darn near a complete stop as he tries to get himself back underway.
You had to wait there because he had some traffic going by. Cars like Mark Whitley, who, I mean, you really do not want to get into somebody who is hot on the charge like that. Whitley is, lap times have started to fall off here, maybe more than you would expect. He's only 0.8 faster than Ken Huber right now. In fact, last time around, he was only half a second faster than Ken Huber. So as Mark Whitley has started to maybe wear up those tires. Ken Huber has done a good job of holding steady out in front of this field, and that's allowed him to continue in good position. Although even if he comes down fuel only, he's still going to be in the box for about 35 seconds. So I wonder what the strategy is here, because it feels like even if he pits now, he'll fall behind Whitley, he'll fall behind McWhorter. Is he maybe just hard saving? I mean, we'll have to see. I don't think it's possible to go 40 laps around here in an Xfinity car, that's for sure.
No, and saving at a road course, it has got to be one of the hardest things in all of motorsports, whether it's digital or in real life. You know, you don't have a whole lot of opportunities to save. You need all of the ability to slow the car down using your transmission, so you can't be clutching going downhill after this uphill section. You really can't be clutching uphill because you've got to have that forward bite on the car. So, you know, my question would be, how are you saving if you're here on the road course?
I would say just using the clutches, backing the car into these corners, you know, like getting off the gas really early and kind of just letting it roll down, especially when you get some of these downhill sections here where you can maybe more afford to do that. I would be shocked if Huber had anything close to enough, because, I mean, we saw him doing battle with Whitley early. We saw him going all out for it, giving a big challenge to Mark Whitley. How would he have done that while saving? He's definitely got a pit for fuel, but he is making it work so far. They're running some pretty good lap times. I don't think he's going to get there with a fuel only, but he could still get a decent podium out of today, even if he does come down again.
Just a dime piece left here at Sonoma Raceway, and, you know, these drivers have got to start looking, you know, do we have enough time? Do we have enough fuel? And maybe the secret sauce, you know, with the right kind of preparation is, you know, Joseph McWhorter and Mark Whitley saying, we're going to come down on, you know, lap 15, lap 19. That's a splash of fuel in 4 tires. They had plenty of time to do the recovery here on the racetrack. So really what it does is it pins Ken Huber into a corner, and he says, hey, listen, I basically got to drive this thing to empty and pray.
I mean, maybe that is the strategy for him now. Laps are really starting to run down here with only 8 to go. There's only so much you can do if you are Ken Huber. Kind of control your own destiny right now, as he's got enough to where Mark Whitley is not going to pass him on track if the race were to end in 8 laps and everybody were to be magically good on fuel. I just don't really know how he would be good on fuel, barring him really stretching this tank to its absolute limit out here. I think maybe could just be a plan of go to lap 38, come down, stuff as little fuel in it as you possibly can, you know, a 1-2 second pit stop, and then try to run it out from there. I mean, we'll see. All we can do is theorize on what Ken Huber and Wesley Burke and Chuck Sweeting and all those other cars in the field back there are cooking up, as there's not really any battles going on the racetrack right now, so we're just watching and waiting and seeing how this unfolds for these drivers. Oh, Dave Calvert's around in the hairpin right in front of Ken Huber. This was a self-spin. He's going to get that thing back around and get going here. Just kind of lost it and slid into the inside wall down there.
We go to the V-Speed instant replay, and it's basically going to be a pirouette move. That right front is going to lock up, and he's going to get himself spun around. A gentle nudge of the wall, and he holds onto the brake just long enough. You know, this is not like an ARCA situation where you kind of let that thing roll for way too long. As he gets himself, you know, back pointed the right direction, we go back live. And the Nadi car has some ground to make up for sure, as he's already, you know, not on the lead lap. He's going to get himself digging as Ken Huber continues to dominate. That lead, though, between himself and now Mark Whitley down to 18.4 seconds. That's going to be the scary one. 17.2 now between Huber and Whitley. So a huge difference as we head to the twilight of this race with just 8 laps to go. Huber's got to say, hey, I've got somebody like Mark Whitley behind me. I have no choice. My bet is made, and it's time to lay it.
Yeah, time is running out for all of these cars. Really, Mark Whitley not going to get any higher than second through passing. He's just going to have to wait and see what Ken Huber does and how this strategy plays out for the 40 car. Only got 7 drivers on the lead lap here. And, I mean, we haven't really seen anyone come into pit road recently. It's been 9 laps since Devontae Drain came down. He was the last one. The drivers who have not made a pit stop this race are obviously Ken Huber out front, Wesley Burke in third, Chuck Sweeting fifth, Barrett Morton sixth have not come down. Brock Price, Brandon Wallace, Michael Jones have stayed out in 8th through 10th respectively. And then you've got Stefan Purcell in 13th, Chuck Feltz in 18th, and Charles Abert in 20th. All of those cars have stayed out for this entire race so far, and time is running down with only 7 laps to go. And not to read too much into things, but I would like to note that the drivers who are staying out on this strategy, which is Stefan Purcell, Wesley Burke, Charles Abert, 3 of them are in one voice chat right now, so they've maybe got the strategies going there. Kyle Deering as well. He came down 5 laps into this race. He's stayed out since. He's in that same call. Wonder what's going on in there.
Yeah, I can only imagine what the conversation is in that race chat. I mean, Ken Huber out of Kalispell, Montana, has basically been leading this thing now for more than a dozen laps. And, right now the fastest 5 for 5 are Mark Whitley, Joseph McWhorter, Ken Huber, Wesley Burke, and Devontae Drain. And, Mark Whitley running P2 and McWhorter in 4 at 1 minute 20.71 and 7.5 respectively. Ken Huber, though, he's the one that over the last 5 laps is definitely starting to sweat at 1 minute 21.32 seconds. So Ken Huber, maybe we're starting to see that fade come in here as Mark Whitley out of Wilmington, North Carolina, is going to be the one that has to put the biggest battle up against him, as it looks like the 77 now has to get around the 59 of Frederick Seagraves Jr. As, Seagraves, he's run a decent race. He had some issues earlier on. It's a shame that there's no way to easily get that lap back. And sometimes it is a battle of the lapped cars deeper in the field, and it looks like the 59 still trying to stay ahead of Whitley. It's almost like he's blocking Whitley to keep him away from Ken Huber, as that gap between Whitley and Huber was just down at 17 seconds and now at 19.2 seconds, give or take.
Hey, Dave, I just went down there and I talked to Wesley Burke. He's good on fuel. He says he's a lap to the good. So we are going to assume that all of these cars are going to be able to make it if Wesley Burke says he is good to the end.
Okay. Well, that's some excellent pit reporting, and it's also some crazy, to me, that's mad scientist driving at its best.
Yeah, he says he's still saving, but he is, at the rate he's going, 1 lap to the good on fuel. For the 04 of Wesley Burke, who I just talked to.
Okay. All right.
So he's running in third. He's going to look to hold that over McWhorter. McWhorter's kind of evened out, honestly. The new tires have hit a cliff for McWhorter, and he is just as fast as Burke is. So that 04 car could keep third here down to the end of this thing. Ken Huber is a full second quicker than Mark Whitley, by the way.
That's wild. I mean, here's the thing. I think that's what makes Goat Locker Racing unique here on the iRacing.com servers. These drivers, they spend a lot of time racing at different levels and different disciplines here on the iRacing.com servers. And so they've got a lot of time sitting near one another, watching one another's habits. And Ken Huber, he knows that once you get the lead, you basically have to hold on to it for dear life and use that Kung Fu Ninja grip to keep ahead of, drivers like Whitley or McWhorter, and in this case, Burke in that mix as well. As we've got just 4 laps to go live from Sonoma Raceway. Ken Huber, your race leader. He's got Mark Whitley, Wesley Burke, Joseph McWhorter, and Chuck Sweeting, your top 5, trailing behind him. And Whitley having, at this point, leading this. McWhorter just jumped up into that lead, the fastest 5 for 5, as McWhorter is 1 minute 21.11 seconds running in P4. Your race leader over the last 5 laps, Ken Huber, at 1 minute 21.22. As long as he can keep that gap between himself and Whitley, at least over the next 4 laps, I think we have the most unique way to win a race in Goat Locker Racing.
Yeah, I mean, I would have not thought that anyone would have been able to make it all the way on fuel, but we got quite a few cars who have been able to save that keep it out there and have upset drivers like Mark Whitley and Joseph McWhorter, who came down for that one-stop strategy and have had it not work at all for them, really. They're stuck back there, second and fourth, while Ken Huber, Wesley Burke, Chuck Sweeting, who have saved the tires, have been able to, or saved the tires and the gas, have been able to come out here and grab a good finish. We'd like to thank yet another one of our partners at Goat Locker Racing as we take 3 to go. That is Lincoln Tech. Lincoln's mission is to provide superior education and training to their students for in-demand careers in a supportive and accessible learning environment, transforming students' lives and adding value to their communities. They are one of the largest automotive technology schools in the nation with 30 campuses. They are always a partner of Goat Locker Racing and the title sponsor of the Saturday IndyCar Series. So thank you very much to Lincoln Tech for their continued support of Goat Locker Racing.
6 cars remained on the lead lap, and you know, I remember years ago I was calling a race, and we were at COTA. It only started with 6 drivers, and there were only 2 drivers on the lead lap. I don't think we're going to have that situation here with just 3 to go, but still, to take, you know, a starting pile of 23 and lower it down, you know, drop everything down with just 6 cars on the lead lap. That's an impressive night for Ken Huber, and Ken Huber has a lot of things that to me get 5-star ratings for the night. 1, fuel management, 2, track position, and 3, staying as far above Mark Whitley and Joseph McWhorter and Wesley Burke as any human possibly can. Whitley now just 15.9 seconds behind Ken Huber with 3 laps to go, and as Huber rolls out of turn number 12 and crosses the start-finish line, we're 2 laps to go at Sonoma Raceway.
And Ken Huber still has that car in save mode. It looks like Mark Whitley picked up a second on him that last time again, but he is looking good to get to the end of this race. All he needs to do is keep that car out of trouble, and he will be in great shape. Heading down the hill here, will make his way through the right-hander with a 16-second gap to Mark Whitley. I don't know if this has got to be one of the bigger margins of victory that we've seen in any Goat Locker series, really.
Well, and road courses will do that. I mean, you know, sometimes, even in the real world, when you're watching a race on Fox or NBC, you know, on a road course, there are some drivers that just get it. I mean, you know, SVG obviously was kind of the road course ringer, if you will, sort of like what Pablo Montoya was in the middle part of the 2000s. But, you know, sometimes you see that leader come across the start-finish line, and everybody puts their hands in their pockets and just patiently waits for P2 to come across the line, and that's what we're going to see as Ken Huber rolls through the hairpin turn and heads on back toward the start-finish line. The white flag is in the air, and we're racing back to Checkers live at Sonoma as that white flag is presented by Glove Station.
Yeah, Glove Station, quality gloves and protective gear to get you across the finish line, and it is domination for Ken Huber. Saved the fuel, kept it out there. The battle will go for third there as Wesley Burke maybe had to save a little bit more than he wanted. Here comes Joseph McWhorter right up to the bumper of that 04 car.
It's been a long night for Ken Huber. It's been a long season, you know, so far with 5 races in the books. We're here in week number 6. Ken Huber finding a way to notch that win. They go side by side deeper in the field. That's Joseph McWhorter and the 04 of Wesley Burke. They decide to turn the heat up here in a battle for third, and they're going to go fender to fender. Watch them come uphill, and as they start that transition downhill, it looks like McWhorter wanted to have a little bit of extra fun here at the end of this race. The interesting thing at a 2-mile raceway like we have here at Sonoma is they've got plenty of time to decide who's going to finish in third. Looks like second is going to be buttoned up. That's Mark Whitley with 10 seconds between himself and Burke. Coming through the hairpin turn is Ken Huber, headed back toward the start-finish line. Ken Huber, who has dominated this race with no pit stops whatsoever, sees the man in the stand. The checkered flag waves, and the race is going to go to Ken Huber, who captures the checkered flag.
Mark Whitley is going to get second. McWhorter is going to have one more shot at Wesley Burke for third. Big send into the hairpin for McWhorter. Is it going to stick? He's going to make it work. Joseph McWhorter comes out of the corner clear, and he is going to steal third away from Wesley Burke at the last possible second. What a move from Joseph McWhorter for P3.
Joseph McWhorter should be charged with larceny the way that he just stole that away from the old four. He was patient. He did all the things.
Brandon Wallace just got absolutely killed by Frederick Seagraves. He was going to finish 9th, and that car has moved outside of the top 10.
You know, this is one of those things where at the end of a race, especially as we take a look here, I mean, that is no way to end a race, and now you've got to get yourself backed up and on track. But let's take a look at Ken Huber. He started second. He led 22 laps with his fast lap being 1 minute 18.970. And, you know, Ken Huber, you are the man. That's all there is to it. I mean, he definitely wins the Ironman award for the night, not even coming down pit road.
Yeah, just such a dominant run for Ken Huber there, really all night long. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have results and interviews with your top 3. Stay tuned.
Superior quality, ultimate protection, and the highest level of craftsmanship. We make our gloves for the hard worker that wakes up every morning and gives 110%. You deserve the highest quality protective gear that's going to work for you, day in, day out. We know it can be tough deciding what companies to trust for your hard-earned money. It's all in our name. We've mastered our craft to help you master yours. We make our gloves rugged, durable, and designed for you. Whatever the job is, we have you covered. We are your glove station.
A thriving job market and low cost of living, plus a wide range of veteran benefits, make Indiana the perfect place for veterans of the United States military to call home. INVETS can help you find that home. We're an organization started by veterans to help former service members transition to civilian life in our state. INVETS can help you find the community with the career opportunities, housing, schools, and amenities that fit your lifestyle. To learn more about INVETS, visit us at invets.org.
Welcome back to the Goat Locker Racing INVETS Grand National Series. We'll take a look at your finishing results here. Ken Huber grabs the win by 15 seconds tonight over Mark Whitley, Joseph McWhorter, Wesley Burke, and Chuck Sweeting, your top 5 cars. Barrett Morton, Devontae Drain, 6th and 7th. Your top 7 cars at the start of the race finish this race in the top 7. Brock Price goes from 20th to 8th, and it'll be Michael Jones and Jamie Libke rounding out the top 10.
Finishing in 11th is Brandon Wallace, as he's going to come home in 11th. Judson Curtis, Stefan Purcell, and Kyle Deering finished 12th, 13th, and 14th. 15th goes to Frederick Seagraves Jr. Dave Kalber comes home in 16th with Christopher Heiner in 17th. Garrett Kinder comes home in 18th. Charles Zabert finishes in 19th, and rounding out your finishing top 20 is Chuck Pegleg Feltz in the 75.
And finishing back from there, you've got the 08 car, the 09 car, of Stephon Davis, Daryl Whitford, Patrick Hagan, Billy Sigmund, Mark Barcelos, and Armando Magoza to round out your field. Those final 3 cars did not take the green flag here tonight. We will call into the booth Ken Huber, your race winner. Ken, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going in the booth up there? Hope you saw a good race.
Pretty good, pretty good. How close were you on fuel at the end?
I had a 10th left. Oh, I had
Ooh.
yeah, I had a 10th left. I ran out of gas on the backside, so yeah, it was really close. I was just talking about that to Mark and Joseph in the waiting room, and so when Mark went into pit lane, I looked down at my fuel gauge because I was planning on pitting at the halfway point too, and I looked down and it says I was negative 6/10. So I was like, well, I'm going to be out there on old tires if I stay out, so I'm probably not going to burn as much fuel. So I stayed out and gained a 10th, kind of milked it a little bit and able to pull it off tonight.
Yeah, I mean, how's it feel to grab a 15-second win over a driver as fast as Mark Whitley?
Oh, it feels good. I mean, I've been trying my damnedest all season. It's been a rough season for me. I normally don't have such a crappy season, but this season I've just had just constant bad luck. So just it's nice to get a win out here at the road course. I love road courses. I'm decent at Sonoma, so I don't want you to think I'm slow or anything. I can usually get around this place pretty good.
All right, anyone you have to thank tonight?
Oh yeah, I got to thank Vocal, my ski company, man. If you guys need a good set of skis to get out there and hit the slopes with, Vocal makes some of the best skis in the world. Also got to thank Lincoln Tech, man. Great school there that sponsors us here at Goat Locker, and then of course Save 22. Always mention them, the title sponsor of the series. Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs, of course, INVETS, and Above the Yellow Line Media. Make sure you check those guys out on YouTube. That's where you can see Goat Talk live, and you can see their keeping you up to date with what's going on in real NASCAR news.
Congrats on the win tonight, Ken Huber.
All right, thanks.
We'll now throw it over to Dave. He will be standing by with our second place finisher, Mark Whitley.
Hey, Mark, it's Dave up in the broadcast booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, gotcha.
Mark, I mean, you ran a great race. You made the decision to come down and get some pit service. Do you regret that? I mean, Huber said that he was, originally showing as, short a half a lap, and he actually wound up finishing a tenth to the good.
Yeah, I guess hindsight's 2020. I never really paid that much attention to it because I saw we were about when we rolled off, it was about 3 short. I just didn't think, you know, even if you could save some, I figured the fall off would be bad. But it's like I don't know if it's just the way they model the tire or something, but it's just it fell off about a second and a half, 2 seconds, and you stayed there for the rest of the run, no matter how much you abuse the tires. So I feel like the tire would have worn a little bit more, probably would have been fine, but it just that plateau went from lap like 10 of the run all the way, I guess, to lap 40. So just one of those things. You know, it felt like the car was tires were just starting to give up. So I figured pit and get tires, but I guess road courses with these stock cars sometimes are weird. So it's just one of those weird things with them, I guess.
Do you ever find yourself, as a driver, kind of being frustrated with the fact that you have to be your own spotter, your own crew chief, and at the same time still run a heck of a race? I mean, to me, I think that's what makes iRacing most difficult, compared to the real world.
Yeah. Normally I'd agree with you, but I had Brantley on spotting for me, so I don't even have the excuse to give. So, um, it's one of those things. Normally, yeah, you got to be driver, crew chief, spotter, and then if you have great friends like I do that come in there and spot for you, you ain't got to worry about it. And sometimes that kind of you almost lean on it too much because you stop paying attention to everything related to it, and it almost would have been better to if I'd have been looking and be like, oh, we could maybe make it. And it's just one of those things. iRacing's unique, and just one of those things about it.
Unique is definitely one way to put it. Well, before we cut you loose, who do you need to thank and who helped you get it done tonight on the 77 car?
Yeah, all the league sponsors that make it possible to be here: Jam Printing and Promotions, V Speed, Alexander's PCs, Cruising Classics, GTR Simulators, INVETS, all them guys helping put on a great show. Brantley up there, my spotter and my paint job. He does awesome work at Harpoon Design. If you need a new one, check him out over there, harpoondesign.com. My other sponsor on the car, Jawa.gg. Right now the PC gaming market is kind of crazy with all the stuff going on, but they got you covered over there. Number one online marketplace for gamers. So check them out. They got good deals over there. All the guys that tune in to these broadcast races, I appreciate y'all. Vector, Daryl at home, over at Harpoon Chat. I appreciate everybody, and I guess final shout to you guys putting on a broadcast.
All right, brother. Well, listen, congratulations. We'll see you next week at Rockingham. And I believe right now Joseph McWhorter should be with Sky.
Yeah, Joseph, how you doing?
I'm doing all right.
P3 tonight. Tell us about that wild last lap you had. I was surprised that move worked out for you.
Yeah, I mean, I chased him down from like I don't even know how far back I was at the end of the pit stop, and I chased him down, and he had already kind of roughed me up at the beginning of the race. Um, and I was kind of expecting a little bit more of that. And I got to his outside or to his left side going up the hill. Well, he doored me there, and then doored me another time, and then doored me another time. I'm like, all right, well, I guess if we're playing this way, so I gave him the bumper going into the S's, which ended up somehow helping him, or not through the S's, but that in turn 7, which somehow got him through turn 7 better than me. And then I chased him back down through the S's and everything, and he broke so early, and I'm like, oh, I got you. So I just did the same move that I did at the beginning of the race, but he turned in like I wasn't there, and I mean, it was just clean. I mean, it was just hard racing. I mean, the after the checkered flag was a little aggressive, but I get it. He's a little bit upset, but I mean, you got to take a little bit of hits if you're going to give a little bit of hits. You know what I mean?
What was the idea behind the one-stop strategy here? Because it ultimately didn't end up as the right call.
Well, I wasn't. I was going to just run it out and just run the entire rest of the race. But I accidentally clipped the wall and got tire damage there on the front stretch. I don't know if you guys caught that on the broadcast, but I accidentally clipped it where you have like that little jut out part where it kind of
Mhm.
curves the wall does by the start finish line. I clipped that on accident, and it gave me tired. It said it had tire damage, and I was just so tired. So I said, well, I mean, if I can just get in front, if I could take the tire advantage and get in front of Mark, I could probably hold Mark off if he pitted instead of running it out. And it just wasn't the right strategy. The tire hit plateau just so fast. Like the tire wear was just insane tonight.
All right, who do you have to thank tonight, Joseph?
Yeah, I need to thank MK Fire Design, Sim Motion, Zach Graphics, and INVETS, everything that they do for GLR. Got to thank Outlier Speedco. Go check them out at outlierspeedco.com. Boys have been making some really, really good race cars. Red Camel Racing, check them out at redcamelracing.com. Fire suit, shoes, helmet, you name it, they've got it for a race weekend. Um, who else do I need to thank? You guys for putting on the broadcast. You guys do a great job every week. Love V Speed. All the drivers for a really good race and just ready to get on into next week.
Congrats on P3 tonight, Joseph McWhorter.
Thanks.
We'll see if we talk to him or Mark Whitley or Ken Huber again next week as we head to Rockingham, a very different racetrack from where we were tonight, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, Rockingham, as I had mentioned at our show open tonight, one of the classic race car tracks on our circuit, especially in the Grand National Series. We hear so much about, the Pettys and the Earnhardts and all of the success they've had over the last 60 years at Rockingham. So we get to do that as it's going to be the eternal racetrack right here on the INVETS Grand National Series.
Well, for everybody at V-Speed and INVETS and at Goat Locker Racing, and for myself, Dave and Eddie up here in the booth, thank you so much for watching tonight. We'll see you at same time, same place next week at Rockingham. Have a good night.